My name is Jason, I'm 25 years old, and I work as a software developer at a small tech company on the outskirts of the city. Mark and I have been friends since college, and over the years we've remained close. The story I am sharing today is about an unexpected day that forever changed my life and the lives of his family members. Mark and I've been friends for quite some time, but there was always something about his mother Claire that caught my attention. She had this incredible warmth and energy that was impossible to ignore. Every time I would visit them, we'd end up talking for hours, sometimes more than. I talked to Mark. She was always easygoing, laughing at my jokes, and well, she was stunningly beautiful. There was something magnetic about her presence that made it hard for me to keep my distance. So one day when I found myself with some free time, I decided to surprise Mark by visiting. I didn't overthink it, just grabbed my car keys and headed over without calling. I figured it would be a spontaneous and fun way to catch up, but when I got there it turned out Mark wasn't home. Claire, however, answered the door with a look of mild surprise at seeing me. She greeted me as usual, laughing softly, and welcomed me inside. "This is a surprise," she said, her easy smile lighting up her face. "Mark didn't mention you were coming." I rubbed the back of my neck and smiled. I thought I'd surprise him. CLA laughed, stepping aside to let me in. "Well, he's out, but you're welcome to stay until he's back." At that exact moment, a heavy rainstorm began, pouring down suddenly, making it clear that going home wasn't an option. CLA glanced out the window, raising an eyebrow before looking back at me. "You're definitely not going anywhere in this weather," she said with a grin. "Looks like you'll have to stay a bit longer." I nodded, secretly relieved that I had an excuse to stay. She led me to the living room where we settled in. The sound of the rain provided a calming, intimate backdrop as we talked. I found myself enjoying her company more and more. Claire offered me a cup of tea and we talked about work life and a little about Mark too. Her laughter filled the room, warm and welcoming, making me feel completely at ease. Every now and then, our eyes would meet, lingering just a bit longer than usual, and I could feel a subtle connection forming as we chatted. She casually leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs, and I couldn't help but notice her elegant posture. She was 50, yes, but her energy and smile gave her a timeless quality that was irresistible. Tried to keep my emotions in check, but I could tell by the way her eyes twinkled with amusement whenever I looked at her that she noticed my attraction. "So Jason L.," she said, with a sly grin interrupting my thoughts, "you're unusually quiet tonight. Is something on your mind?" Caught off guard, I stammered, and nervously laughed. "I guess I just didn't expect to be here like this, just the two of us." She tilted her head, her expression playful and warm. "Well, it's a nice surprise," she replied softly. "Mark not around much these days, so it's good to have some company." There was a casual tune to her words, but I could feel the underlying warmth that made my heart race. We continued to talk, and the conversation gradually shifted to more personal topics. She shared stories from her younger days, her past dreams, and how life had taken unexpected turns. I found myself hanging on to every word she said. As the hours passed, the storm outside grew stronger with no sign of it letting up. Claire looked at the clock, then back at me, her smile thoughtful. "Looks like the weather isn't going to clear up anytime soon," she said. "It's really coming down out there." I nodded, glancing out the window at the torrential downpour. "I don't think I'll be able to make it home tonight." She nodded, her voice gentle and understanding. "Well, you're welcome to stay here if you'd like. Mark's room is just down the hall." I smiled, grateful, though I was aware of the excitement bubbling up inside me. "Thanks, Claire, I'd really appreciate it." She appeared for a moment, and returned with some extra blankets, placing them beside me on the couch. Our hands brushed as she handed them to me, and I felt a rush of warmth spread through me, making me look up at her. She held my gaze, and for a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. "You know," she said softly, almost in a whisper, "always thought you were a charming young man, and now that you're here, it's been really nice to have some company, just the two of us." It swallowed, my heart pounding. "I feel the same way, Claire." The air between us felt thick with unspoken words. She gazed, Yatma, her eyes searching mine, and then slowly she leaned closer. I could feel the warmth of her body and the faint scent of her perfume surrounded me. I knew this moment would be unforgettable. She held my gaze for a moment longer, then reached over and brushed a loose strand of hair from my forehead. Her fingers lingered just a bit longer. The necessary, my breath caught as her touch sent a speak through me, and I instinctively leaned into her hand. "Jason," she murmured, her voice soft and low. "You're really..." Something the words hung between us, and in that moment I could no longer resist moving closer. I gently took her hand in mine. Her skin was warm and soft, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in, her lips slightly parted as if inviting me to come closer. My heart raced as I leaned in and brushed my lips against hers. Testing the waters, she responded, her kiss tender and warm, her hand resting gently on my cheek. We paused for a moment, and when our eyes met, there was no hesitation left. I wrapped my arm around her, drawing her closer as our kiss deepened. It was a kiss filled with passion that had been building all evening. She sighed softly, her hand moving up to the back of my neck, pulling me closer as if she too had been waiting for this moment. The thrill of her touch made me feel alive, and I couldn't help but trace the curve of her waist with my fingers, feeling the warmth of her skin. Beneath my touch, slowly she pulled back, her eyes glinting with a playful look. "You know," she whispered, "I never thought. Well, I guess we both know where this is going." I smiled and nodded. "I'm glad it is." The rain continued to pour outside, but inside everything felt warm and close. She leaned back into the couch, and I followed, wrapping my arms around her and holding her close. Her fingers traced soft patterns along my back, each touch sending new warmth through me. Our lips met again, this time deeper, more intimate. Her hands began to explore, and I couldn't help but feel the intensity of her warmth inviting me in, as if she had been waiting for this moment just as much as I had. Her fingers slipped down my arms, light and teasing, and I couldn't help but smile against her lips. She looked at me with that same soft warmth in her eyes, her fingers resting against my chest, as if she could feel my heart pounding beneath her touch. I leaned down, kissing her neck and letting my lips linger there, feeling her shiver beneath my touch. Each moment felt timeless, and I lost myself in the warmth of her embrace, our hearts beating in time with the sound of the rain outside. She sighed softly, arching slightly, allowing my hand to find the curve of her waist, a perfect fit. Beneath my touch, encouraged by the way she responded, I let my hand travel slowly along her back, feeling the warmth of her sweater. Beneath my fingertips, she let out a quiet, inviting murmur, and her hand came to rest on my shoulder, pulling me closer. The feeling between us was magnetic, and I couldn't help but lean down, brushing my lips along her neck, savoring the softness of her skin and the way she reacted with a subtle shiver, tilting her head to the side, as if to invite me further. I pressed gently against her chest, making her body feel even more electric, and slowly tried to slide my hands inside her sweater. The sensation, her soft and firm chest, made me feel more energetic, and I could no longer hold myself back. Our eyes locked, and there was an unspoken understanding between us. I leaned in again, my lips pressing against hers deeper this time, savoring every lingering second. My hand found her hip, and I could feel her pulse quicken beneath my touch. She relaxed fully against me, her body molding to mine as I held her close. Every touch now felt more natural, more connected. She looked at me, her eyes filled with emotions that neither of us could express in words. With a soft smile, she leaned back against the couch, taking my hand and guiding it to her shoulder. Her fingers laced through mine in a gentle squeeze. I let my other hand slide down, resting on her leg, feeling her warmth beneath my palm as I stroked her thighs softly. The closeness between us was undeniable, and our kisses became slower, savoring each moment as our closeness deepened, making me lose track of everything else but the feeling of her in my arms as we pulled away from each other, breathless and dazed. The world outside had transformed. The rain poured heavily, casting a muted ambience that enveloped us in our own private universe. I could see her cheeks flushed with warmth, the way her lips glistened from our kisses, igniting a spark of desire. In me, I had never felt anything like it, this deep primal connection that drew me toward her, urging me to explore further. "Maybe we should move this somewhere more comfortable," she suggested, her voice slow and inviting laced with mischief. I could only nod, feeling a rush of exhilaration wash over me as she led me down the dimly lit hallway toward her bedroom. The door creaked open, revealing a space that felt intimate and inviting, softly lit by the golden glow of a lamp. The room was adorned with elegant furnishings, but it was her presence that made it come alive. She turned to face me, her gaze steady and electric tension hanging between us, thick with anticipation as the door clicked shut. Behind us, the sound resonated in the silence, amplifying the moment I stepped closer. Drawn to her, like a moth to a flame. My heart was racing as she took a step toward me. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, the warmth of her skin igniting something deeper within me. With a gentle tug, I pulled her closer, my other hand brushing against her waist, feeling the softness of her figure against me. She looked up, her eyes sparkling with a mix of desire and mischief, and I could feel my resolve crumbling as I leaned down, capturing her lips once more. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent as I pulled her against me, our bodies fitting together perfectly. I felt her warmth radiate into me, each kiss sending waves of electricity coursing through my veins. Her hands roamed up my arms, tracing every muscle before tangling in my hair, pulling me closer, urging me to explore further. As I broke the kiss, I looked into her eyes, seeing the reflection of the heat and passion that had ignited between us. I pressed my forehead against hers, savoring the moment, feeling both exhilarated and vulnerable. "Are you sure about this?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. Her answer came in the form of a soft smile, and she nodded. Her yes never leaving mine. "I've never been more sure of anything," she replied, her voice steady and filled with warmth with that affirmation. I leaned down, capturing her lips again, and this time I stepped back, guiding her gently onto the bed. The mattress felt inviting, and as she sank into it, I hovered over her, feeling the weight of anticipation in the air. I took my time, letting my lips trail along her neck, kissing softly along her collarbone. Feeling her shiver beneath my touch, her fingers danced along my back, urging me on as I explored her inch by tantalizing inch, savoring every gasp, every sigh that escaped her lips. I paused for a moment, feeling the warmth of her touch, the warmth of her touch, the warmth of her touch. Our bodies moved together, lost in the rhythm of passion, and I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me each moment, pulling us closer together. The night stretched on, filled with whispered laughter and gasps of pleasure as we lost ourselves in each other completely. The boundaries of our friendship blurred, replaced by something far deeper, something beautiful and wild. I had never imagined a night could unfold like this. Yak moment drawing us closer, wrapping us in a cocoon of intimacy. Eventually, exhaustion began to seep in. I laid beside her, my arm draped protectively around her shoulders. We were both panting, our breaths mingling as we took in the aftermath of our connection. I felt her fingers play lightly against my chest, and I leaned down, kissing her forehead softly, relishing the warmth of her body against mine. "Tonight was incredible," I murmured, my heart swelling with emotions I couldn't quite name. She turned to meet my gaze, a soft smile gracing her lips. "It really was," she replied, her eyes sparkling with satisfaction and a hint of mischief. "I think I could get used to this," as we drifted into a peaceful slumber. The rain outside began to lighten, but inside our hearts remained intertwined, forever changed by this unexpected night of passion and intimacy. I knew then that this was just the beginning of something special, a story woven with threads of desire, friendship, and newfound love. We lay entwined in each other's arms, basking in the afterglow of our passion. The world outside slowly returned to normal. The rain had lightened, and the rhythmic patter against the window created a soothing background to our whisper conversations and soft laughter. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, the sudden sharp ring of the doorbell jolted me awake. I froze, my heart racing, as I glanced at her, a mix of surprise and panic in her eyes. The reality of the moment crashed down on us. "Her son, my friend, was home, is that?" she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, it's him," I replied, my mind racing. We quickly scrambled to straighten ourselves, but the frantic rustling of sheets and clothing only added to the chaos. The doorbell rang again, more insistent this time, making my pulse quick hide. She urged, her eyes wide with urgency. I linced around the room, desperately searching for a place to go without thinking. I dove into the closet, pressing myself against the wall. My heart pounded in my ears as I held my breath, straining to hear what was happening outside the bedroom. "Mom, are you home?" I heard my friend call out, his voice echoing through the house. "I thought I'd find you here." She opened the door to the living room, her demeanor shifting from flustered to composed. "Yes, I'm here," she called back, her voice steady, despite the chaos in her heart. I could see her through the back of the closet door, standing tall, her expression betraying nothing. I couldn't help but admire her poise in such a tense moment. "Did you get caught in the storm?" he asked, stepping inside completely oblivious to the atmosphere in the house. I held my breath, wishing I could see his face, wondering how much he sensed just a little shower. She replied, a hint of nervousness creeping into her tone. "But I'm fine. How was your day?" "It was good. I was hoping we could hang out. I brought some snacks from the store," he said cheerfully. Why, I couldn't help but smirk to myself, amused by the normality of his words juxtaposed against the wildness of what had just transpired. "Of course, just give me a moment," she said, glancing back toward the bedroom door as if she could sense my presence. I held my breath, waiting for what would come next. Would she invite him in? Would he sense something, a missile, right? "I'll be right there," she said, turning away from the door and heading back to me. I could see the resolve in her eyes, a determination not to let this moment slip away. "Quick, get dressed," she whispered urgently, her heart racing as much as mine. I quickly pulled on my clothes, trying to quiet my racing thoughts. I could hear my friend moving around the living room, the sounds of bags rustling as he rummaged through them. "Do you think he knows?" I asked quietly, panic creeping into my voice. "No, he can't," she replied, biting her lip. Her expression was a mixture of excitement and fear. "Just act normal. We'll figure this out." With one last glance at each other, we braced ourselves for the return to reality. I stepped out of the closet, heart still pounding, and joined her. I was in the living room, just as my friend turned back toward us, a big grin on his face. "There you are. I was starting to think you were hiding from me." He laughed, completely unaware of the charged energy lingering in the air. "Just getting a few things organized," she replied smoothly, shooting me a glance that said everything. As we settled into the evening, laughter filled the room, masking the undercurrent of tension and unspoken words between us. My heart was still racing, the memory of our passion lingering in the back of my mind. It was a delicate balance between friendship and newfound feelings. But in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of connection and the thrill of what had just happened, I knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning of a complicated, beautiful story that neither of us could have anticipated.